I moved around a lot as a kid. We were the kind of family that always had a few boxes that went unopened between moves. My dad was a good guy, but he had a problem with authority, so he usually couldn't hold a steady job for more than a year or so. When the lease was up, we'd move closer to wherever his next job was. During one of these moves, my dad found what he called a steal. It was a small, 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house with a detached garage. Rent was only $300 a month. This was back in 2003. The catch was that it was in a rough part of town. When we first met the landlord, he told us, "I won't go into the specifics, but I'm legally required to let you know that someone passed away in the house within the last 5 years." My dad shrugged it off. He saw cheap rent near work and took it. We moved in shortly after, and things started happening almost immediately. There were noises in the house constantly. It was like we weren't alone. You'd hear sounds you'd expect if other people were there. Drawers opening and closing, doors swinging by themselves, the bathroom faucet turning on and off. It wasn't malicious, just off. So we learned to live with it. One odd thing we noticed early on, the front door had a keyhole on both sides. You couldn't leave the locked house unless you had the key. That design would become a problem, fast. Not a week after moving in, we lost the keys. We were still in unpacking hell, boxes everywhere when it happened. My dad, clearly stressed, started getting loud about it. He accused me of stealing them, cursing, pacing the house. And then, right in the middle of the chaos, we all heard it. The keys dropped onto the floor in the living room, right in front of the couch. Nobody was near it. He picked them up, tried to rationalize what just happened, mumbled, "Screw it," and went to work. Over the next few months, those stupid keys became the centerpiece of the house's weirdness. Every evening, my dad would place them in a glass bowl on top of our tube TV. Every morning, they'd be somewhere else. One of my favorite moments was when we found them in a sealed box of pots and pans we hadn't opened yet. The box had those little side handle holes, and it was like something shoved the keys through them just to be spiteful. Even my dad laughed at that one. Now you're probably thinking, okay, weird noises, missing keys, that's creepy, but not horrifying. And I get it. But here's the part that still chills me. The worst thing was the stomping. Most nights, almost like clockwork, around 2 or 3 a.m., you'd hear heavy footsteps pacing back and forth in the hallway outside the bedrooms. I confirmed with my dad later that it freaked him out too. We had been living there for about 8 months. I was probably around 8 years old. One night, after weeks of lost sleep, I snapped. I screamed into the hallway, "Stop stomping around! I need to sleep, damn it!" "15 seconds of dead silence. Then, like a charging bull down the hallway straight at my door, it was followed by 3 violent, aggressive knocks. Not taps, knocks. It was so loud, my dad woke up and rushed in to check on me. My stomach twisted. I felt like I was going to throw up, or worse. I froze in bed until I heard him call from his bedroom, "You okay, buddy?" I finally worked up the nerve to get up, but something felt wrong. I was shaking like a leaf. My bowels decided to betray me mid-hallway sprint to the toilet. I didn't make it. There was a trail from my room to the bathroom. I was crying, covered in shame. trying to explain through sobs what had just happened. My poor dad, trying to console me, told me something I'll never forget. If you ever feel uncomfortable, just come sleep in my room. Nothing can bug you when I'm around. That helped for a little while, but the final straw came a week later. My dad had been dating someone for over a year, and she was staying with us more and more. One night, they got into a minor argument before bed, just something dumb about chores. They both went to sleep grumpy. Sometime between 2 and 3 a.m., she was yanked out of bed by her ankle, dragged down the hallway. According to her, she didn't even wake up until she was already on the floor being pulled. She screamed, and whatever had her, let her go. She ran back to the bedroom, turned on the light, and told my dad what happened. He didn't question it. He didn't try to reason with it. He sent me to stay with my aunt. He stayed in the house alone for the next few months while looking for a new place. He said it was safer that way. During the final move out, we had some friends over to help unpack. Almost every person who walked in the door asked the same thing. "Hey, you guys have a small white dog?" They all swore they saw it walking around the house when they arrived. We never had a dog. One night, a friend and I were hanging out behind a Little Caesars drinking, and at some point she turned to me and asked, "Want to see something crazy?" Naturally, I said yes. I was always up for seeing crazy stuff, but knowing her, I figured it'd be a video of some stray cat doing something dumb. That was her usual brand of crazy, at least. She pulled out her phone and opened her photo gallery, scrolled for a moment, then handed me the phone. It was a photo of her and another girl. It looked like it was taken during recess, an old one. I stared at it, trying to figure out what I was supposed to notice, but nothing jumped out. I looked back at her, confused, and shrugged. "Did you memorize the photo?" I told her I had, I just didn't get what I was looking at or why it mattered. She held up her hand and said, "Wait." Then she started scrolling like crazy through her phone, flicking through photo after photo until, bam, she found it. She showed me another photo, a selfie. The same girl, only this time they were in a classroom. I studied it again, closer now. The girl looked off, disheveled, dirty. Her hair was a mess. Her clothes looked worn out. She looked tired, not just physically, but like soul tired. Like she'd been through hell and hadn't slept in weeks. Or like she was even homeless. I looked up at my friend, clenched my jaw, and asked, "What's the point of this? What are you even trying to show me?" I was ready to scold her for making fun of someone who might have been going through hard times. That stuff just doesn't sit right with me. Then she started to snicker. Now I was getting pissed. "You see the photo?" I snapped. "Yeah, I see it. So?" Then she told me the story. She said she had shown that same photo, the second one, to one of her teachers, a teacher that she was close with. When the teacher looked at it, her face immediately changed. She looked disturbed, uncomfortable. She asked my friend, "When was this photo taken?" "Today, right before class." The teacher then went quiet, then said something that made my blood run cold. "She's not supposed to be here." At first, I thought she meant the girl had been expelled or suspended or something. I even said that. Wait, was she dangerous or something? My friend shook her head. "No, she'd been dead for months." Several years ago, I was pet sitting for a friend who had recently moved to a small holding right on the edge of a village in the southwest of England. She had a proper little menagerie: chickens, ducks, 2 Shetland ponies, cats, and 4 black retrievers, 3 fully grown, 1 half puppy. Originally, my husband was supposed to come with me for a mini holiday, but the dates ended up clashing with some of his medical appointments, so he stayed home with our own dog, and I went alone. It was about halfway through the stay, just a couple of nights left, when things got weird. It was late, already dark, when I heard a loud commotion from the chicken shed. Banging, thumping, like something was going nuts in there. I assumed it was a fox or something getting in, so I went to check. But as I was halfway across the garden, the noise stopped instantly, like a switch had been flipped. By the time I got to the shed, everything was completely still. The chickens were all calm, mostly asleep. No sign of a disturbance, nothing to suggest they'd been awake. A bit freaky, but I don't know much about chickens, so I chalked it up to a false alarm, locked the shed, and turned back towards the house. And that's when a small black shape darted past me and out the back door. It took a second, but I realized it must be the puppy. Somehow she'd slipped out when I went to investigate the shed. She bolted straight across the garden and towards the woods at full speed. Cue me cursing like mad, calling her name, getting no response. I grabbed a torch and clipped a lead onto one of the adult dogs, partly for protection, partly because I figured the puppy might be more likely to come back if she saw her dog sibling, and partly because I didn't really fancy getting lost in the woods on my own. So off we went, down one of the vague trails I walked earlier in the week. I kept calling for the puppy, shining my torch around, trying not to think about every horror story I had ever heard that started in the woods at night. After a while, the trees started thinning out a bit. I remember thinking, I don't remember a clearing on this path. Something felt off, like we'd taken a wrong turn. That's when the dog with me slowed down. Her body language changed completely. She started resisting, pulling back on the lead. I tried to coax her forward, even laughed nervously, but my stomach dropped like a stone. Then she started growling. A low, deep, serious growl, hackles up. The torch in my hand barely worked. It felt like the beam just bounced off the darkness. I started seeing movement in the corners of my vision. Not full shapes, just darker than dark shadows, sinuous and shifting around the edges. Then I mumbled under my breath, I swear to God. A voice hissed right next to me.
Don't say that name.
It sounded wet, gurgling, inhuman. At the same time, I heard this horrible sniggering laugh, like something was enjoying my fear. I was frozen. The only thought I clearly remember having was evil. Just that word, over and over and over. The dog was pressed to the ground, growling with her teeth bared. And then, another voice. This one was different, clearer. Inside my head, but echoey. Go back. Whatever it was, it snapped me out of it. We turned and ran. The dog practically dragged me. I was stumbling behind her, sobbing with fear, just holding on to the lead for dear life. At some point, I dropped the torch, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. I felt like if I let go of that dog's lead, they'd get me. When we made it back to the garden, she stopped suddenly, I tripped over her and fell to my hands and knees, and she spun around, snarling back towards the woods. Proper snarling, full teeth, savage. I swear I heard that snickering laugh again, but my pulse was thudding in my ears so loud I can't be sure. I scrambled to my feet and ran for the back door. The dog backed up behind me, snarling the whole time like she was holding something at bay. And just as we got to the house, I heard it again, banging and thumping from the chicken shed. I threw open the door, bolted it shut behind us, and turned on every light in the house. The other dogs were all there, all three of them, staring at the door, growling, hackles raised, including the puppy. The puppy was inside the house the whole time. I don't know what I saw run past me. I don't know what I chased into the woods. I sat in the kitchen, crying, while the dogs slowly settled down, one by one. I locked every door, every window, and wandered the house muttering a half mix of half religious, half spiritual nonsense. Anything I could think of to protect us from whatever I had just encountered. I didn't sleep a second that night. The next morning, I called my husband and begged him to come out and stay with me for the last couple days. I know it happened. I had scratches all over my arms from the branches, and the palms of my hands were grazed from where I fell in the garden. That wasn't a dream. Nothing like it has ever happened to me before or since, and I pray that it never does again. It was the most terrifying experience of my life.